Folks, it's yet another opportunity for us to converge on this platform to talk about things that are not easy or palatable to many, but must be spoken. Because the question now in the realms of the Spirit is, how can a man that is not a Sunday be buried on a Sunday? How can a man that is not a Sunday be buried on a Sunday? Of course, we want to assume that the compendium of our listeners doesn't have a one that thinks that any day is literally that. Any day. Days are dispensations. Days are the sounds of sacrifice in the realms of spirits. It must begin to concern me today that as the nation prepares to lay this man to rest tomorrow, I think the prophetic was laid down to rest long time ago. We are living the day of Micah chapter 3, where the prophet said that the sun is gone down upon the prophets, and that their day is dark upon them. It's incredible, if you ask me. Because how do you know that the sun is gone down upon the prophets? Because a man that is not a Sunday is buried on a Sunday. Listen, I am beyond a mere controversialist. It's just that it's beyond me how you can have the phone number of the chairman of this funeral committee in your phone book, assuming you have one, and you allow this decision to pass uncontested. Folks, this is too mind-boggling for me. What happened to this League of Fathers? What happened to the prophetic dimension that ought to safeguard the interests of God in a nation? Why is it that we, as a church, apparently don't seem to have anything left? We don't have a wisdom. We don't have a prophetic voice. We don't have a mandate that bears upon the gubernatorial consciousness of our nation. How did we get here? How is it that the only thing that we have is $3 in the account to import preachers from wherever it is that we import them from? Now I'm just here to ask folks who will help us, because there are people that have access to the people making these decisions, and darkness is upon the portal of the understanding. This is a burden of the Spirit, folks. That is it not for you? Back to Micah chapter 3 verse 1. Is it not for you, O princess of the house of Israel? The Bible says to know judgment, to understand kingdom, to know days, to understand entities, to understand transactions, to understand favorabilities of the gospel vis-a-vis the contrary, as it were. Now, I just want to pose this question to those that man the corridors of the relationship between the church and the state. You were in concurrence with this decision, and you expect the Spirit to take it lying down. Folks, we don't know God in this country. These men that are supposed to lead us are blind men. Because we don't need to, pay someone to board an airplane to come and tell us what we can realize ourselves. That we have no understanding what this mystery called God is. Oh no, folks, oh no. And you're still sure that you want a revivalistic move of God in the nation, in the government, in the ruling class, and the governing elite. You still want a God that can be honored, even when you have a legitimate reason to avert a spiritual crisis, and you do nothing about it, because the man, according to his wish, said that he should be buried within 72 hours. 72 hours from Wednesday morning was Saturday morning. It was not Sunday. That was the opening we had to avert a Sunday burial as a church. What am I saying? I'm not saying that the man was not a warrior for democracy and a statesman beyond reckon. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that all of us cannot think like graduates of the school of government. I'm just saying that all of us cannot be spectators to transactions happening within the realm of the Spirit in a nation. Because fathers are chosen so that they can be the lens that sees things that a taxonomy in the populace does not see. Prophets are raised so that there can be a difference between a person that is a victim of decisions, and one that is a partaker of a decision called the honor of Christ. A partaker of a decision called the honor of Christ. But I'm not here for everybody, of course. How can I be? I'm just here for that unknown intercessor somewhere that is in a deeper relationship with kingdom transaction more than these decorated fathers of a nation that has no understanding who God is. I'm here for that person that will watch this and they will not even comment, because they will understand it more than the people whose comments ought to inject a difference in the situation. That's who I'm here for. Because, folks, because if you have three things playing out at the helm of a government, you should be very concerned about how they relate to the honor of Christ in a generation. The first one is the multitude, the behavioral tendencies of what you'd call the multitude space in a nation. If there's a significant sway in that dimension, be interested about how a core impression relates to the honor of Christ therein. Papa, what are you saying? I'm saying that apart from a multitude, be interested with a fatherhood claim. Because fathers are raised so that mindsets can be covenanted. So if you have a father that has established himself, be careful about how days relate to them and how the protocols of honor relate to them. Number 3, if you have the rise of a man, observe the rise of the bloods associated with his rising. Because it is bloods that inform not just ideology, but the doctrinal consciousness that is both in the church and in the world. And now we are talking about kingdom, folks. Because if you're talking about ideology, you're talking about mindset, and you're talking about sway, then you're talking about kingdom. And if you have those three things, what we need is a moment in time. What we are concerned about is an aperture within the continuum of time. For what? For us to put one thing above another, or for us to show how one thing led to another. For us to put one thing above another, for us to show how one thing either associated itself with another for its prevalence, or drew inspiration from another for its core establishment. So, what's the relationship between this multitude and the kindreds and the tongues and the peoples and the nations that are in Revelation chapter 5? Folks, what's the relationship between a father and the father? And which one is greater, so that the one that has the prominence can determine the cause of solical consciousness, the preeminence. No one rises without a blood. Jesus is God today because of a blood. Mussolini got to where he got to because of his propensity to the art of shedding blood. So what is the blood law within this specific engagement? Because if those three things are on the table, then you're looking for a time. That's what I'm trying to say. You're looking for a time. Yeah. So don't give us the 3 days that this man wished to be accorded. Give us 4, so that we have a Sunday, so that we can have three things that we have just stipulated, claiming a moment. It's absolutely incredible that we are not able to see that. I saw some ministers going ahead of the procession, throwing water with collars. There are those that apparently have a chapel in State House where they pray. And we have a man that is surrounded, a president that is surrounded by men of God, but apparently they are men of opportunities. Because how do you end up with such a decision a system in a nation? This is a point, because on Wednesday I prophesied that there are 2 specific people that will die the following day, because we need to stir up the blood component in those 3 things that I had mentioned earlier. And that happened. That prophecy fulfillment is somewhere in those reels. You can check among those shots on my channel. And I'm back here to sound the alarm. I'm saying if we get 5 bloods tomorrow, because we have scheduled. By we, I mean the demonic has scheduled. Of course, I'm not part of those demons, but I mean that the demonic has scheduled 5 bloods that are meant to be shed tomorrow. If those bloods touch ground, touch base tomorrow, then there are several things that are going to happen. Because we have 3 things that sought for a time, and now, though we don't have a man that is a Sunday, being buried on Sunday, in a nation that has men of God that can drive in and out of state house at wish. There are many things I can tell you, of course. The question is what to tell you and what not to tell you. But if those bloods touch ground, what we are going to have is an admittance of the spirit of death into the church space. Now, the question is, what will that death do? So much to tell you, but I will forbear. I'll just tell you that there are death patterns that will begin to perpetuate within the church. How so? Separate church and state. If you mix the two, you have removed a prophetic voice from the meddling. And if there is no prophetic voice, folks, if there is no prophetic voice, the first thing that happens is a loss of life. So I'm talking about loss of lives that will play out on the church space. And I'm also talking about a specific person within the church space that will be taken out as these bloods are dropping down. That is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to talk about what will happen to the coming influence of the church. I don't want to talk about the incumbent position of the realm of the gospel in the nation and what will happen to that. Possibly in a later release of light, I will be able to share the same. But for the sake of tomorrow, 19th of October 2025, I just want to raise a cry concerning those 5 bloods. I already said 2 on Thursday. Now I'm saying 5 tomorrow. And that blood trail that will begin to play out as soon as they touch base. And that specific blood within the church space that will accompany the ones that will be terminated. I know that this land has not had a prophet. I'm aware. For a very long time. Clearly, because if you look at how some of these men are thinking and the decisions that men that should depend on them are making, it's an agreeable postulation that we have not had prophets. But now there is one. There is one that is not exactly as afraid as the ones that have gone before him or are afraid. There is now one that will not just sit and watch as this game is being played. No, we shall open our mouths and cry out. The Lord will help us. Folks, we are going to be praying tonight. We're going to be praying tomorrow that as we deal with the ignorance of the church elite, we are specifically going to avert bloodshed so that we don't have a recurrence of the tragedy of David's day, where the king is making a mistake in his palace and innocent sheep are the ones that are suffering on ground. The angel shall stay his sword, as it were, because there is one that has been found to make up for the hedge. And may this sound go forth to make up for the hedge. Will the blood be shed? Depends on whether we are going to take our positions tonight and tomorrow, and how we are going to behave ourselves in the realm of spirits to ensure that we don't carry the entire burden of a people that cannot take their places, even when they are being given access and resources to be able to defend the integrity of Christ in our country. I shall be back here soon to talk on the same subject and to handle the questions that have been coming up. But for now, that is what I need to stipulate. That the Lord may intervene and succor us. God bless you. See you soon. Hello there. This is Apostle William Mbae, the senior pastor of CCI Capital Church. I'd like to heartily invite you to our Sunday services. They are going down here every Sunday. Where? At CCI Capital Church, located along Moi Avenue, opposite Bazaar Plaza, 4th floor, at a building called Mitho Biashara Center. You are most welcome. Our first service starts at 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Our second service starts at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You are most welcome. Tag along a friend. Come, let us experience the Spirit. Let us dine in the Word. Let us sit under these very precious prophetic atmospheres. Will you? See you there at CCI Capital Church. God bless you.